Thanks, guys, for joining me. It's Alex from Shop for Podcast. This episode's going to focus on shame. I've called it Shame Not to Repeat because I believe shame can be a great preventative. It's when you put yourself in a shameful situation that it sticks with you longer than you wanted to, and it teaches you not to do those things that got you in that rut in the first place. Shame tells you where your morals lie. It shows you how far you would go in any situation. It's also a line in the sand that you won't cross. It's the barrier that prevents you from putting yourself in a shameful position. So it can be a good thing when it's done right, but also it can sometimes upset people because your shame levels can vary from another person's, and what you may consider okay can offend other people. But in today's world, it's pretty impossible not to offend people, because anytime you have an opinion that's different, rather than people having the mindset of we agree to disagree, they see that as an offense or an attack on what you're saying to them. So these days, people seem to just keep quiet and don't say anything, and also don't give them themselves. I feel that shame is showing you people what you stand for. It shows you what you will do and what you won't do. It shows you that you have a standard, and it tells a lot about what kind of person you are. Not everyone sees shame as the same thing, because some people will have no shame and will do anything and say anything and say they don't care, because if people don't know who they are, then that's not the right people they care about, because someone should know that not everyone holds things back because they're not thinking about other people, but they're just seeing it as if they can't be themselves, then what's the point in having an opinion, having a brain, having a viewpoint? So the world is full of viewpoints because it's full of different people who think and believe what they believe. That's not a bad thing. It's good that we can learn from each other. I do think it's bad if people are suppressing other people from saying what they want to say. I don't understand why people can't just have a conversation without yelling at each other or criticizing someone's viewpoint for whatever reason. Usually the rational person will talk calmly, and the angry person will only respond through anger, because emotionally all they're thinking about is how you've offended them, rather than why you've said what you've said. And that just because you may say something, it doesn't mean you're trying to be offensive. It just means this is how you truly think. And if they spend a bit of time trying to understand why you thought that way, they'll probably be a bit more patient, and knowing that we all have our reasons of why we are the way we are. So shame can tell us where our line is, but it also can be a barrier from preventing us from going forward, because sometimes people have dreams that they don't want to pursue because of shame. Sometimes people have these goals that if it wasn't for feeling shameful for the fact that they have to be vulnerable and open to people by saying what they think, by showing you what they know, they figured that it's probably best to let their shame guide them backwards. Where shame can be a good thing, it also can, on the other hand, can prevent people from growing and moving forward. So where it affects other people in a way that they've been offended because you've been mean and aggressive, that itself is wrong. But where you've said a viewpoint that has offended, but you've just chosen your words carefully and not did it in spite, that's where the world needs to be a bit more like a band, and expand and stretch, and not just break the moment any different opinion comes their way. So shame can be a good thing if it teaches you about how your words affect others. It can be a good thing because it shows others that you do consider them when you're saying things and doing things. But it's a bad thing if when you do things, you have no other person in mind when you're doing something that will be shameful for them, because if you know people well enough, you know that that what you're doing may affect others. So maybe the choice of words will be more or better way of doing things, so that way you won't offend those that seem to get offended. So shame is your moral standard, and is a way of you seeing not only what your level of shame is, but what other people's level. So if you do a balance where you get to say what you want with the consideration of others, that's probably the best way to tackle it, I would say. Anyway, that's all I've got to say on this particular episode. Hopefully people have a better viewpoint of shame, and how not everyone has the same shame level, and those who don't, it doesn't mean they're bad people. It doesn't mean that they don't care. It just means that they're purely focused on how they are feeling and what they are wanting to say, and they don't want to feel so closed in their opinion, and they want to feel free to say and do what they want. It doesn't always mean it's done in malice. So that's where people should sometimes consider that we all have our ways of doing things, and that we need to be a bit more open in how we tackle the world. Anyway, thanks again for joining me, and I'll hope to see you on the next one. Thank you. Bye.